She started disappearing once a week. Not the normal kind of busy. Not the kind you can explain with overtime or a messy schedule. It was always the same pattern. A Tuesday night, sometimes Wednesday if her manager swapped things around, and she would kiss me on the cheek, grab her tote bag, and say she had to cover a night shift. I wanted to be the kind of boyfriend who made things easier. I wanted to be supportive. I wanted to be proud of her work ethic. So I nodded. I said, "Be safe." I told her I would leave the porch light on, even though we lived in an apartment where the hallway light never went out. I did not notice how rehearsed it sounded at first. If you enjoy real relationship stories with a clear ending, consider subscribing. We had been together for almost 3 years, living together for 1. Long enough that we had built routines without even talking about them. Sunday grocery runs, Wednesday laundry, Saturday mornings at the same diner where the waitress started bringing her favorite coffee without asking. Her name was Natalie. She was the kind of person who seemed easy to trust. Warm smile, big eyes, a voice that made strangers soften. When she talked about her job, she sounded like she cared, like she did not just clock in and out, but actually tried to be good at what she did. That is why the first time she told me she needed to cover a night shift, I barely blinked. She worked at a clinic, front desk and scheduling. Sometimes she helped with inventory. Sometimes she handled insurance calls. Nothing glamorous, but steady. "They are short-staffed," she said. "I am just helping out." I believed her because it sounded like her. The first night shift, she left around 7:30. Said she would be home by 6 in the morning. I stayed up too late, watched a movie by myself, fell asleep on the couch, and woke up at 2 a.m. with the apartment quiet and my phone untouched. No messages, no missed calls. It felt normal. The second week, same thing. Third week, she started adding details, like she had noticed I did not ask questions and decided to fill the silence. "I will be in the back office most of the night," she said. "It is mostly paperwork." Or, "We have a late patient schedule, but it is easy. I will just be sitting there." She would say it like she was trying to make it less of a thing, and I kept treating it like it was less of a thing, because I did not want to be the guy who turned every schedule change into suspicion. Somewhere around the second month, the nights started to feel different. Not because she was gone, because of how she came back. She would walk in around 6:30, sometimes closer to 7, and she would move like she was trying not to make noise, like she hoped I would still be asleep. She would drop her bag in the same spot, slip her shoes off, and head straight to the bathroom. I would hear the shower. I would smell soap. And then she would crawl into bed, careful, like her body did not belong to the night she was claiming. At first, I thought maybe she was just exhausted. Then I noticed the small things. Her hair would be slightly damp, but not from the shower. Damp like it had been flattened under something and then fluffed up at the last second. Her makeup, if she wore any, was always gone. That was not unusual. She usually washed it off. But there was a new kind of freshness, like she had wiped a face that had been too close to someone else. Sometimes her skin smelled like a different detergent. Something clean and sharp, not ours. Once, I caught the faintest hint of cologne. I did not say anything. I told myself I was imagining it. I told myself that if I went looking for problems, I would find them even if they were not real. But my body started keeping score without my permission. The night shifts became the only nights I could not sleep. I would lie there staring at the ceiling, listening to the refrigerator cycle on and off, waiting for the sound of her key in the lock. Every time the hallway creaked, my mind would jump. When she finally came home, I would pretend to be asleep, because I did not want to look at her and see my own doubt reflected back at me. I started acting like a man who was trying not to scare off the truth. The worst part was the casualness. She did not act like someone with a secret. She acted like someone with a routine. She complained about a coworker who never refilled the printer paper. She talked about a patient who showed up late and got mad about it. She mentioned her supervisor being stressed and how it trickled down to everyone. And then she would say, Yeah, I have to cover another night next week. She would say it like she was telling me we needed more milk. Around the third month, I asked if she was getting extra pay for these. Overtime, she said. I smiled and said, good, you deserve it. And then I felt gross for smiling, because there was a part of me that was starting to wonder if overtime was just the word she used for something else. I did not have proof. I did not even have a clean reason to suspect. Just a pattern that did not match the way she had lived before. Before, she hated being away from home at night. She would complain if her schedule pushed her past 6. She liked dinners together. She liked being in bed early. She liked those small domestic moments that made life feel stable. Now she was leaving once a week like she was being pulled by something stronger than comfort. One Tuesday, she left with a different bag. Not her usual tote. A small overnight bag. The kind you take to a friend's place or a hotel for one night. I watched her set it by the door, like it was normal. I asked her what that was. She looked at it and then back at me like she was recalculating. Oh, she said, I might shower there. The clinic has a little staff shower. It is just easier to keep some things with me. I nodded. My stomach did not. After she left, I walked around our apartment like a man who had forgotten why he was standing in each room. I opened cabinets. I closed them. I picked up a dish towel and set it down. I tried to read. I read the same paragraph 10 times. At 11:30, I finally laid down, but I could not stop seeing that overnight bag by the door in my mind. Like it was a warning, I was refusing to read. I did something I had never done before. I called her work. It was not dramatic. I did not call screaming. I told myself I would ask a simple question, and then I would feel stupid, and then I would go back to being normal. I waited until after midnight because she said she would be there. I figured a night shift meant someone would answer. The phone rang longer than I expected. Then someone picked up. A tired voice, polite but blunt. Clinic, how can I help you? I swallowed. I told them my name. I said I was trying to reach Natalie. I asked if she was there. There was a pause. Not the normal pause of someone checking a desk. A pause like someone was scanning a list. I heard keys. Then the voice came back. She is not scheduled tonight. My throat went dry. I repeated myself without meaning to. She told me she was covering a night shift. The person on the line did not laugh. Did not sound confused. Just sounded tired. She has not been on the night schedule in a while, the voice said. Let me check. 1 second. More keys. Then the sentence that made my entire body turn cold. She is not on the schedule at all this month for nights. She has not been on the night rotation for... The voice paused again, about 4 weeks. Maybe more. I stared at the wall like it was moving. I asked if there was another location. No, the voice said. This is the only clinic. If she's there, she's not clocked in. I thanked them, because politeness is a weird reflex when your reality cracks. I hung up, and the silence after was so loud it felt like pressure in my ears. I sat on the edge of our bed, phone in my hand. For the first time in months, all the little things lined up like they had been waiting for permission. The flipped phone, the rushed showers, the different detergent smell, the overnight bag. The way she avoided eye contact on those mornings, like she was guarding something behind her eyes. She was not at work. She was somewhere else. And I already knew where my mind wanted to take me. But I did not let it. Because if I named it too fast, it would become real. I did not call her right away. That surprised me. A younger version of me would have exploded, would have demanded answers, would have turned it into a fight so loud the neighbors could have described it. But I was not younger anymore. I was tired. And I realized something that hit harder than the lie itself. She had been doing this for at least a month, probably longer, and she had been coming home and looking me in the face. That meant she had already decided what kind of man she thought I was. A man who would accept a story because he did not want conflict. A man who would ignore his instincts to keep the peace. She had built her double life on my kindness. That thought made my hands stop shaking. I did not want to confront her on the phone. I did not want her to hear panic in my voice and start spinning a story before I saw her. So I waited. I watched the clock. 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3. At 4, I did something else I had never done. I got dressed, quietly, slowly, like I was preparing for something I could not afford to rush. I did not know where she was, but I knew who she had been talking about lately. Her ex. His name was Jordan. She did not talk about him often, but he existed in the edges of our lives in small ways that never seemed dangerous until now. She had mentioned he moved back into town last year. She had said it like a piece of gossip, like it meant nothing. Jordan's back, she had told me. Can you believe that? I had shrugged and said, huh, small world. She had watched my reaction carefully, like she was taking a measurement. Another time, she mentioned he had gotten a new job at a warehouse across the river. And then, a few weeks later, she had mentioned he had a new apartment. Not in a proud way, in a casual way, like she had heard it through friends. I realized, sitting in the dark, that she knew where he lived. I did not, but I could get close. I remembered the neighborhood she had mentioned once. She had said it when we were driving. A comment about traffic near a specific exit. So at 4:15 in the morning, I got in my car and drove. I felt ridiculous, like a man in a bad movie. But it did not feel like a choice anymore. It felt like I was finally obeying the part of me that had been trying to keep me safe. The streets were empty. Streetlights made everything look washed out and unreal. My tires made the only sound on the road, and the world felt like it was holding its breath. I parked across from an apartment complex that matched what she had described. Newer building, rows of balconies, a little gym sign near the entrance. I sat there with my heart thudding so hard it felt like it was hitting the steering wheel from inside my chest. I told myself this was crazy. I told myself there were 100 reasons she could be anywhere else. Then I saw her car. It pulled in slow, like the driver did not want attention. Like she knew what time it was and what it looked like. She parked near the far side of the lot. And then she got out. Natalie, my girlfriend, hair a little messy, tote bag on her shoulder, the overnight bag in her other hand. She did not look like someone leaving work. She looked like someone leaving a place she wished she could stay. I watched her walk toward one of the stairwells. A man came out to meet her. Tall, hoodie, hands in his pockets. Even from across the lot, I recognized the shape of him from the one photo I had seen online long ago. Back when she still posted about him like he was her whole world. Jordan. He stepped close to her and kissed her. Not a quick peck, not a polite goodbye. A kiss that lingered like they had practiced not having it in public and forgot for a second. My stomach dropped so hard I thought I might throw up. It was not just that she kissed him. It was the ease of it, the familiarity, the way she leaned into it without hesitation, like this was not a mistake, like this was the actual schedule. She pulled back, said something I could not hear, and he laughed. Then he touched her cheek, like he was used to having the right to. She smiled. That smile was the part that hurt the most, because it was not guilty. It was content. They went inside together. The door closed, and I sat there, hands gripping the wheel, feeling the last few months replay in my head like a cruel montage. All those mornings she came home and told me about patience and printer paper. All those nights I told myself I was being paranoid. All those times she made me feel like I was too sensitive for noticing changes. It was all a cover, a story she had rehearsed until it sounded like truth. I drove home before the sun came up. I do not remember the road. I remember the feeling, like my chest had been scooped out and left hollow. But my mind was sharper than it had been in a long time. When I got home, I did not cry. I did not scream. I opened the closet and pulled out a duffel bag. I packed like a man who had done it in his head 100 times without admitting it. 2 weeks of clothes, toiletries, laptop, chargers. The old hoodie she hated because it was faded, but it felt like mine. I left the apartment clean, not as a favor to her, as a way of telling myself that my dignity did not depend on her behavior. At 6:40, I heard her key in the lock. She slipped in quietly, like always. I was sitting at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee I'd barely touched. She froze when she saw me. "You are up early," she said. Her voice was light, performative. I looked at her. "How was your shift?" She blinked. Then she smiled like she was relieved I was playing along. "Long, busy, I am exhausted." I nodded slowly. "I called the clinic." Her smile faltered for the first time. "What?" I held her gaze. "They said you have not been on night shifts for a month." She opened her mouth and closed it. Her eyes darted somewhere, searching for an angle. I did not let her find one. "I drove to the apartment complex near the river," I said, keeping my voice calm because I refused to give her the satisfaction of making me look unstable. "I saw your car. I saw you kiss Jordan." Her face drained of color. For a second, she looked like a child caught stealing. Then her chin lifted and she tried to turn it into offense. "Why were you following me?" That was it. That was her first instinct. Not sorry, not ashamed, not even a clumsy excuse. Just anger that I had finally looked. I let that settle in the air because it told me everything I needed to know about how she saw me. I was not her partner. I was a convenience, a safe place to come home to when she was done being someone else. I stood up. "I am leaving," I said. She stepped forward. "Wait, we can talk about this." I shook my head. I am not going to debate what I saw with my own eyes. Her eyes filled quickly, like she could summon tears on demand. "It is not what you think." I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was so predictable it felt insulting. I looked at the overnight bag still in her hand. "You do not pack an overnight bag for something that is not what I think." She swallowed. Her voice dropped. It was complicated. I nodded like I understood. Then I said the simple truth that had been building in me for months. "If it was complicated, you could have been honest." She wiped at her cheek, frustrated. "I did not want to hurt you." I stared at her. "You did not avoid hurting me. You avoided consequences." The words came out steady, and I felt something shift in me, like my spine straightened. She opened her mouth again. I raised a hand, not aggressive, just final. "I am not going to be the man you lie to and then blame for noticing." I picked up my duffel bag. She followed me toward the door, voice rising. "Where are you going?" "Away from this." She tried to grab my arm. I stepped back. "Do not." She froze. I could see the moment she realized I was not going to play my old role. Not the understanding boyfriend. Not the forgiving boyfriend. Not the boyfriend who absorbed disrespect like it was part of love. The door clicked behind me when I left. The hallway smelled like someone's laundry and stale carpet, and I breathed it in like it was fresh air. I drove to my brother's place because he lived close and he was the kind of person who did not ask questions before giving you a couch. When I walked in, he took one look at my face and nodded. "You can stay as long as you need." I slept for 10 hours straight. When I woke up, my phone was full. Missed calls, messages, apologies that looked like they were written by someone trying to sound sincere without admitting details. She said she was sorry, that she made a mistake, and that it did not mean anything. Then she switched, claiming she loved me, that I was overreacting, that she needed time, and that she could not believe I would throw us away. Reading them felt like watching someone throw darts at a wall, hoping one would hit the right spot. I did not respond. Not because I wanted to punish her, because I finally understood that the conversation was the trap. If I engaged, she would steer it into confusion. She would turn it into a story about my trust issues. She would make me explain why I deserved honesty, like it was something you had to negotiate. I did not owe her that. Later that day, I went back with my brother to get the rest of my things. She was there, eyes swollen, wearing the same hoodie she used to steal from me. She looked like she had been practicing sadness in the mirror. When she saw my brother, she stiffened, like she hated witnesses. I moved quietly. I took what was mine. I did not take the couch. I did not take the table. I did not take anything that would require a fight. I took my clothes, my books, my tools, the small things that made my life function. At the end, I stood by the door and looked at her one last time. She said my name in that familiar tone, soft and pleading. I did not answer, because the version of me who would have answered was the version she had been exploiting. I walked out. A week later, I heard through a mutual friend that she was with Jordan openly now. No more night shifts, no more overtime, no more complicated. Just the truth, finally, when it cost her nothing to tell it. For a few days, that made me feel stupid. Then it made me feel free. Because if she could switch like that, it meant it was never about me not being enough. It was about her wanting two lives and thinking she could keep both. I learned something I wish I had learned earlier. Love is not proved by how much you can tolerate. Respect is not proved by how quiet you can stay. And loyalty is not a feeling you claim. It is a pattern you live. She broke that pattern, week after week, and she called it work. I did not catch her with a hotel receipt. I caught her with a schedule that did not exist. And the moment I heard the truth from her own workplace, I stopped negotiating with my instincts. I stopped trying to be the nice guy who made it easy to betray him. I left, and for the first time in months, I could sleep at night without waiting for a key in the lock.